some historical perspective on this topic. We should not forget these gentlemen. Sir Edward, the Sir Star and Sir Edward, who first time used Star Edward well, they invented it. And this Dr. Zofby, he is the lead author of all guidelines regarding valvular disease nowadays. He is in this business for the last 30 years, as far as I know. And her Dr. Ellen Carpenter, who introduced glutaraldehyde to bioprosthetic valve to make them less immunogenic. And this lady, who was first implanted with a prosthetic valve, she survived only 4 months, but on the basis of her surgery that we are discussing prosthetic valves. Had she died on the table, prosthetic valve surgery would have died there. Thank you, madam. So, types of prosthetic valves, as usual, Star Edward is still. Yesterday, I encountered this. We are encountering, so we must know Star Edward, the single leaflet, the bi-leaflet, the housing, the leaflets, and the movement. Next are the prosthesis valves, which are actually pericardium of pig or cow mounted on a stent, and these are the stentless valves which are incorporated into aorta. Then the new one, the percutaneous valves, either self-expandable or balloon expandable. Just you have to assess by echo all the structures, the suturing, the housing, and the movement of the valve leaflets. Let's see how far I can go. First, you should gather clinical information. That is very important for any echo, and especially what are the symptoms, when they did have their onset, and what's the severity. Because some of the symptoms start right at the time of implantation. You must have knowledge of body surface area, because this we will talk in prosthesis patient mismatch. You must have a knowledge of heart rate, because on this depends your regurgitation and valvular and volume assessments. And you must have a knowledge of blood pressure, at what blood pressure you are going to have your study done, because that can affect your parameters. The anticoagulation status, if you're considering that your patient has got thrombosis, type and size of prosthetic valve. You must have these charts available on the table when you are assessing a prosthetic valve. They are available in various journals, and you can do them, because by that you will know the size of the valve. This does not in itself can tell you the whole thing. You have got to know the peak gradient, the mean gradient for each and every valve, for each and every size. And if there's any additional procedure done at the time of surgery, you must note it, like erectile root dilatation. So you must have a fingerprint echo. There's the first echo done after valve implantation, and any subsequent echo. This is not thumbprint, it is fingerprint. Now, when you assess, you start with 2D, you assess the movement of the ball, you assess the struts, you assess the cage, and you can see the Star Edward, the ball, the blood goes on the two sides. Is a single leaflet. Assess the movement. There's some bubbles in it. I will talk about them later. And this is your bi-leaflet valve, which has got 3 openings, one central of a high value jet and 2 side ones. You have to assess each and everything of them. So, some phenomena are peculiar to prosthetic valves, like physiologic regurgitation. Although every native valve has also got physiologic regurgitation, but we have more of it here. This is of 2 types. The one is the closing volume. When the LV contracts or blood comes back, it just moves the occluder towards its occluded position. And then there are certain washing jets. When the valve has closed, still blood goes into the back chamber, and you must know that this is not pathological regurgitation, it is physiological, by seeing that if it is within the swing ring, one. Number 2, it is homogeneous, only aliasing at the base, and it is not more than 5 centimeter. It involves 10 to 15% of the regurgitation volume. Then clicks, as we heard here with the stethoscope. So over here with on echo also, the opening and closing click. Presence of them rules out many of the pathologies. Thirdly, you can get two spectra on continuous wave Doppler, higher velocity and lower velocity, especially in cases of bileaflet valve, because as I have told you that the central orifice has got a larger velocity. Should not be confused. And there you can see some phenomena because there's too much light, but I think that you can appreciate it तारे चमक रहे हैं. ठीक है? These are because of, these are known as microvowels or cavitation, and is are usually seen in mechanical valves and not in biological valves. They are benign, usually at the inflow portion, and common in the mitral position. They're probably due to carbon dioxide degassing, no air embolism. Then you can see on transesophageal echo some feminine threads, which are certain like 2 to 30 millimeter long, and they are also seen mostly in patients who show thromboembolism. Wakar, I want your attention. Lithosthesis patient mismatch, very important topic. The term prosthesis patient mismatch was first proposed in 1978 by S.H. Rahimtullah, a Pakistani-based physician who was settled in Los Angeles, and he happened to be the brother of my teacher, who is also named as S.H. Rahimtullah, and he used to practice in our facility for I think 30-40 years, and I have the honor to work with him for last 20 years. Both of them have died now. One side does not fit all. And participation mismatch occurs when valve size is smaller for body size, resulting in mean gradient greater than 20. So what you do, you calculate projected effective orifice area, and here the chart comes to your help. You have got the size and you have got the effective orifice area. So what you do is, this effective orifice area is to be divided by body surface area to get the reference that for this patient, this is at least valve of this size should be implanted. First thing. Second, in your echo lab, when the patient has been implanted, you calculate effective orifice area by continuity equation, as already explained, and divide this effective orifice area by VSA to get index effective orifice area. Now you have got referenced effective orifice area and you have got indexed effective orifice area. So you compare these two, and if you get at aortic position valve greater than 0.85, at mitral position greater than 1.2, it's okay. But for 0.65 and 0.9 means stenotic or thrombotic. For obesity, they have reduced these values to 0.55 and this one to 0.75. This is another very important phenomena which we also experience in cases of aortic stenosis, that the pressure recovery. There is a discrepancy in gradient measured by echo and gradient measured by our cath lab colleagues. What happens that in the diaphragmatic valve, there is narrowing. As there is narrowing, there is increase in the velocity. With increase in the velocity, the pressure goes down. Now, as pressure goes down, the gradient from here to here will increase. So you will have measure a higher gradient. A higher gradient means that you are measuring effective orifice area to a lower level. Similarly, in a bileaflet valve, in that center, I have told you that there is high velocity. If you measure here, the gradient would be higher, but your measured effective orifice area would be lower. So be aware of these two caveats when measuring by bioprosthetic valve. This is not of much importance for aorta whose size is more than 3 centimeter, but smaller aortas you can find this. Although the manufacturer also incorporates this value of pressure recovery phenomena in their mentioning of effective orifice area. There are certain difficulties with we encounter while analyzing prosthetic valves, like shielding. This is very important. Like see, mitral valve put up over here, there is a regurgitation jet, but because there is acoustic attenuation, the ultrasound beam cannot penetrate, you cannot see how much is mitral regurg, neither in this view. Aortic valve is a bit spared because of its anterior location. You can get a perivalvular leak or a valvular leak quite better, but maybe for this you have to use op-axis views. See here is the case of the prosthesis in the mitral position. There's some small jet going on. everybody will label it as mild. But when we did a TE, there was a dehiscence over here and such a large jet. This means a severe MR. So shielding affects our diagnosis. Reverberations. These are the artifacts produced, and one must be confused. What are these clots or what? No, these are the ultrasound beam big big you can get a buzz jati hai between the probe and the metal. So it very reverberates again and again. It produces a shadow. It may be horizontal, and there are certain shadows from the suture ring, the comet tails. So these are just normal phenomena for a artificial valve implantation. Now the spectral Doppler, what measurements you could do that has already been discussed a bit, the gradients and velocities. Velocity is the first measure by which you जहाँ पे कान खड़े होते हैं ये वेल promoting की वजह से वेल obstructive तो नहीं है. So peak velocity is the higher velocity recorded and gradient is calculated a Bernoulli equation which in view of negligible V1. Yeah, this is the Bernoulli equation. V1 is almost negligible in most of the cases, so we just drop it out and use this modified Bernoulli. But in cases of prostatic valve, you cannot do this. If the LVOT diameter is less than 1.5, you have to take into account the V1 as well. This is important. And a high peak velocity and mean gradient are the first indicators that there is something wrong with the valve, the differential. So, we feel the actions could be pathologic stenosis or functional stenosis or regurgitation. So malalignment of sample volume, low cardiac output and elevated BP can lower the gradients, and there are the measures which can increase the gradient. The effective orifice area we have discussed is not the same as the geometrical orifice area. Effective orifice area is less flow dependent than gradients. It calculated by continuity equation, and it can be used for AR anyway, but for MR greater than 1 MR or AR you should not use for. Now pressure half time is very important. We use it for mitral valve area assessment usually, but that formula should not be used for prostatic valve. Major value has significance, exact value, and it depends on LV and LA compliance. Doppler velocity index is that you compare the velocity of LVOT with the velocity of the prostatic valve, and you divide them VTI LVO, VTI jet for assessment of prostatic aortic valve, and other way around for prostatic mitral valve. This is very important because it does not rely on insulation angle. Now, for aortic stenosis, prostatic aortic,
2 minutes, 3 minutes.
yeah, aortic time, acceleration time is important because here, if it is less, it should be less than 80. But as the stenosis goes on, it becomes more and more, and it becomes more than 80. And acceleration time to ejection time ratio is only very important, cutoff being 0.37. Regurgitation parameters are the same as has been told to us by Fakhr, so I need not to go through them. I will just go through the algorithm that for diagnosing prostatic aortic stenosis when there is velocity is greater than 3 meter per second. What you do, you check the jet control if it is early peaking or it is ellipsoid, and check acceleration time to E time ejection time ratio. Then next parameter is Doppler velocity index. Less than 0.25 indicates severe, greater than 0.3 indicates normal. But still you have to see the effective orifice area. As I've told you, here I've told you that stenosis, if it is less than 0.25, valvular stenosis including thrombosis or maybe subvalvular. And consider valve stenosis in for these, if there is possible stenosis with these parameters, the valve stenosis is small LVOT, improper position of LVOT, pulse wave Doppler or underestimation of jet velocity. The algorithm for assessment of prostatic mitral valve stenosis, you cut off is pressure half time greater than 130 or less than 130. If it is greater than 130, you check the mean gradient. Yes, greater than 8 is pathological obstruction. Less than 8, it is pathological obstruction, but the patient has got low flow, low cardiac output. In this case, you have to see the TVI ratio less than 2.2 or more than 2.2. If it is less than 2.2, calculate the indexed effective orifice area. And if it is Mean gradient is greater than 5, it is facial prosthetic mismatch. If less than 5, it's normal. Whereas if the TVI is greater than 2.2, you can diagnose exactly that it is regurgitation, severe regurgitation. So that's all about it. So prostatic valve assessment is a bit tedious, it requires multiple views, off-axis views, and the parameters that we usually obtain while assessing usual stenosis and regurgitation bit different. So you have to follow the algorithm. You must have the knowledge of the patient, must have all the charts available, and then you can compare. And especially this prosthesis patient mismatch business, you must know.